This is Dance Studio 411, where we answer your real-life questions about your toughest studio life predicaments. Parent problems, teacher turnover, student challenges, policy dilemmas, and so much more. Let's talk about what's keeping you awake at night and what you can do about it. Here are your hosts, Suzanne Blake Garrity and Jill Tyrone.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of our Dance Studio 411 podcast. And today we're talking about time hacks for busy dance studio owners. And boy, we sure know a thing or two about how busy dance studio owners are, because we work with so many who are like, how am I ever going to get to the bottom of this to-do list? And Jill, you and I have known each other for a long, long time. And one of our favorite mantras is it's okay that you're never going to get to the bottom of your to-do list because you're up to big things, but we want to help empower you to be effective on your to-do list, right?
Yes, that never-ending to-do list, it's not going to go away. You're always going to be adding to it. But today we really want to get down to some good hacks and productivity tips and things that will make you more efficient with that long to-do list that you have.
Exactly. And we really want to take time here today to give you some practical tips, just some of our own experience, as well as what we've learned throughout the years from studio owners, and sort of help you kind of get a fresh perspective as you maybe open up a new calendar or you get ready to be a little more productive. So we're going to focus on a few areas today and we'll dive into them, but we're going to talk a lot about time, your own time and your schedule. We're going to talk about email, big part of the business. We're going to talk about creating social media content, which can also be a real time drain. And then sort of the systems of where you find things. I'm guilty of, where did I put that? Right, Jill? We've all done those.
I know. I've been so much better than I probably ever have. And I still have a lot to learn myself and a long way to go. But it's really important that you follow your system. So whatever that system is, and we'll talk about some ideas today, but whatever that system may be, actually implementing it and doing the things on a regular basis, that's what's going to set you up for success. So we'll give you some tools and maybe some platforms or some things that you can do, but it's just up to you then to really just put it into practice.
We'll dive in. And the first place I want to start to help you as someone who's running a business and perhaps teaching classes and managing the office around time hacks is actually your time. And, it's been said that we can make more money, but we can't make more time. And that is so true. And so your time is your most precious resource. And it's easy being the boss of all the things, and people have to come to you and they have lots of questions and everything is important. Everything's coming at you. And so how do you protect your time and be more effective with your time, right, Jill? I mean, it's easy to get pulled in on everything.
It's so easy. We all get the same amount of hours and minutes in each day. It's just really how you allocate those. And Suzanne, you are right. It doesn't matter if you're, solely the studio owner, if you're working with a partner, maybe some of you have your families at home. Everybody is being drawn into multiple directions at multiple times. And the minute you step foot in the studio, you're up for phone calls and parents that are pulling you aside for things, students that need your attention, teachers, faculty, staff. So there are a lot of ways that we're going to help you to figure out how to guard your time a little bit and set aside time just for the things that you need to do.
Exactly. And the first way to do that we really like is to really intentionally calendar your time. So we're going to give you a couple of tips on that. So Jill, we've talked about this before, but you look at your week and you say to yourself, okay, Mondays might be the best day that you handle all of your studio, what we call administrative tasks related to perhaps tuition and billing or ordering and invoicing, like all of the tasks that are administrative. And then perhaps you say, okay, Tuesday, depending upon what your schedule is, you might dedicate Tuesdays to content for social media or your newsletter, and then moving on. So, Jill, you have a lot of experience with that. How have you perhaps seen this be more effective for studio owners?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do, like you said, Suzanne, pull up your calendar and look at the week or even the month and see what patterns you can find. If Mondays are a really nice quiet day for you, chunk and block off your time on Monday mornings or whenever that may be for things that you know that you need to get done, things that you can't necessarily do while you're in the office. And there are a lot of things happening when you're in the studio. And that might be your good administrative day, like you mentioned. So taking a look at your calendar and literally putting those time blocks into a calendar is huge. That visual reminder, just like you would set an appointment or a meeting to go get anything done. Maybe you have to meet with your accountant. You wouldn't skip that meeting. So put these things into your calendar and always overestimate the amount of time that you think it's going to take, right? So if you estimate it's going to take you 1 hour to do something, block off an hour and a half to maybe even 2 hours. And that way you have the full amount of time. You don't feel rushed. You don't feel like you're trying to beat that 1 hour time chunk, but keep to your schedule, put it in your calendar and really get that visual cue going. Color code things too. I love that too. When I look at my calendar, I can tell that all of my work appointments are a certain color or certain types of appointments are a certain color. So that helps give a nice visual as well. And Suzanne, you have some tips on planners and things that you like. So why don't you share your tips as well?
Yeah. So I think the other thing to remember, as you will always be the one that needs to be brought into many directions, is to create the space to map out your day. So it's easy to just say, oh, today's another day. People ask me, Suzanne, how do you do all of this? And one of the things I'm super intentional about is I take time in the morning before I turn on my computer and I really carve out the day. Now, does this not mean that things sometimes go astray? Sure, they do. Some emergencies come up, certain things pivot, but by taking time, Jill, we've done a whole session on planners.
Yes.
It's first of all, it could be a plain notebook. Fine. I like offline planners. I do use an online calendar as well, but I like to just take out a good old pen and write down things. I've gone between the Panda planner. I use there's so many planner pads out there. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, take 20 minutes, 25 minutes to just go through your day with some intention. And I have learned, because I am an overachiever, throughout the years, I would put too many things on my to-do list. And then I'd get to the end of the day and I'd be like, oh, I only did half of it. Instead, now literally I'm like three big things. What are those going to be? And then that leaves room, right, Jill? It leaves room for you to be able to talk to a faculty member. It leaves room for you to have a conversation with a parent or whomever. And it feels less stressful and it feels more productive.
Absolutely. I love that tip. I am too an overachiever when it comes to things. And I don't want to feel bad at the end of the day because I have unmet expectations and tasks that are still, not finished. That doesn't mean that I don't write them down. And we're going to talk a little bit more about, where to put things in a few minutes, but I do write the things down as they come up during the day to make sure that I have a record of them. But when it comes to setting goals, you do yours in the morning, Suzanne. I tend to do mine in the evening, just to do another quick brain dump, get it out of my head, look ahead to the day following, and also then start thinking about what those top 3 things are that I'm going to do. We could do a whole workshop on this, but the bottom line is your time is your most precious resource. It's easy to think that everybody should just be able to get you, but you have to really intentionally put the appointments in there on the big things. Otherwise, the day just gets away from you. And I know you're listening, you know this, but it's a good reminder to take control of your time. And Suzanne, one last thing about that too, when you do block off your time and you're sitting down to take that hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it may be for your project, maybe it's even only 30, 40 minutes. How about we all make a little pact to turn off all the alarms, turn off all the ways people can get a hold of you, any types of notifications that come through on your phone or your computer, really narrow everything down and give yourself that gift of time. True. So let's move on to one of the other things that really bogs down our time as dance studio owners and business people is email. Yeah. Oh my goodness, email. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have so many inboxes, we have so many messages to respond to, things we don't want in our inbox. So we're going to give you a few tips. And this is from, gosh, Jill, we have a lot of email experience. It's just so many things. And like, what would you say is the biggest thing that studio owners get tripped up on when it comes to email? I think the sheer volume of it. So if you think about it, maybe you have your own personal email where people can find you. And then you have an info at or some sort of an admin or a general inbox for your studio. And maybe then you have your personal email as well. You're getting hit by a sheer volume of email that is really feeling a little out of control at times, very overwhelming at times. And Suzanne, you and I speak from experience with this. So I think for me, it's probably just the sheer volume. And then the secondary follow-up to that is the follow-up of the emails. What do I do with these emails? Do I just leave them sitting in my inbox? Do I categorize them? Do I color code them? What am I doing with all this volume of email that comes in? And Suzanne, I know you're a big fan of inbox zero and color coding. So I'd love to turn it back to you and have you share some tips on how you manage I know you get a ton of email as well.
I think the first thing to remember is that we're always going to have more email. It's like we've talked about this before. It's like you clean the kitchen and there the dishes come again. It's nothing you're ever going to escape. So it's about finding some joy in the process. And so I've coached many a studio owner out of overwhelm from the fact that you feel like everybody needs you urgently all the time. So the first thing I want to talk about is, if you're listening to this, maybe you're using Gmail or a Google Suite program, Outlook, whatever the inbox is that you have, you've got to come up with a way to categorize the emails. Whether it's, I use a color star system in Gmail, I use a different system in Outlook because I use multiple types of email. You've got to have a system. What is this? So at the studio level, is it a new student inquiry? Is it a billing question? Is it a general question about makeup classes? Like categorize into maybe 4 or 5 things. Don't go no more than 4 or 5. And pick sort of the lane of which that goes under. Once you have a category, you can start to assign those emails a category. So for me, that was a breakthrough. If something's financially related, it gets like a green thing. Like pick your system.
Yep. And I do recently, I've learned about this method called the stack method, and you can just Google this and look it up. There's a lot of information on it, and it's about categorizing. So it's finding the right categories. For me, it's more of a reply. It's more of a do. It's more of a follow-up type system. So if I know I have to do something, it goes in that do folder. If I know I need to reply to somebody, because that tends to be the most stressful to me because I know somebody's waiting for my response. So it goes right in the reply folder. So I know that that's where I have to go. That's the first one that I'm going to tackle when it comes to my email time during the day. So again, categorizing, whether it's color coding or the types of folders and the naming that you give that nomenclature, that's the important part. And then going to actually do it, right? Suzanne, that's the thing too. You have to go in and go through those folders and figure out what we're doing with those emails.
Yeah, and I think, Jill, that's a good point. So the next point I want to make about email is that make it easier for yourself. So we email thousands of dance studio owners, and we get all kinds of automatic replies. Yeah. Now you can use the automatic reply feature on your email to your advantage. And it used to seem like, I only need an auto reply if I'm out of office or we're closed, but no, let's give people a path. So Jill, this is not the email training podcast, but whatever the system is, you should have rules or automatic replies that you can set up. And it can be simply hey, thanks for your email. We got it. Here's what you can expect. You can expect a reply from someone in our office within whatever you decide that time period is. And parents, if you have questions, don't forget, here's the parent portal. Here's where you find all the things. Like sometimes it's reminding parents that they know the path to take to get their question answered.
Yeah. And in reassuring them that their inquiry was received. That's exactly it. Making sure that you are reaching out when you don't even have to do anything. Your automation and your system is doing it for you.
Exactly. Which I also love. This is a feature, if you haven't checked it out, is the Boomerang feature on Gmail. And I think you can use it in Outlook too. Boomerang. It's brilliant. You'll have someone that's like, little Sarah is going to miss the rehearsal in a month from now. And you're like, where am I going to write that down? You can boomerang that email you can archive it, set it to a date to come back to you when you need to remind yourself. Mm-hmm. If you're listening to this and you're like, I have no idea what she's talking about, Google Boomerang for Gmail or Boomerang for email. It's a wonderful tool and I love it. I use the heck out of it. Jill, you've taught me this TextExpander, these commonly responded to things. Talk about that.
Yes. So TextExpander is an amazing tool. If you've not heard of that one, just take a quick, Google search for that as well, TextExpander. And what it does is it's so slick. You can create all of these templates and these things that you tend to reply and say over and over and over again. And you just do a little short code and you can put something that you wouldn't normally use. So I use an X, so it would be X and then my little shortcut for that. And it pops up this whole email template, or it'll pop up a whole response to something that I'm working on. You can use it for little things like even your email signature, just, making sure, or like you said, those replies where you want to give somebody more information, go here for this and go there for that. Again, really great time saver. Once you set it up, I love it too. It sends you little emails and it says, you saved X amount of minutes or hours this week by using these text expansions.
We'll probably link out into the resources on the replay page of this podcast. We'll link Boomerang and TextExpander. And frankly, so last bit on email is go to your inbox and see, are you replying to similar messages over and over again? Mm-hmm. Sort of like those frequently asked questions. And if so, that's a great place to start for these automated scripts to build. Secondly, it's also a possibility that you might want to update your website to have answers to those questions. But also, if you're not ready for the advanced level of TextExpander, you can write some canned responses in Gmail, or scripts that you just keep in say a Google Doc or a document somewhere so that you can go copy paste that as needed.
And that's really helpful too. If you're working with an office manager or somebody that's helping you with your inboxes, making sure that you have those scripts handy in a shareable place where they can go copy paste or use the TextExpander on the computers that you have at the studio. So again, really good advice, Suzanne. So let's go on to our next tip. This is also another big time suck and big area where it feels like it's just a little bit of an overwhelming task and takes a lot of time. And that would be social media for your studio.
Yeah, we know we need social media. It's fun to create the easy posts with the pictures on the fly, but then we get bogged down with like what else to create and how and when and how. So there's nothing more magical than batch creating content. It's like batch cooking, but for your content at your studio. If you've ever batch cooked food, I know I have a house full of kids, as do you, Jill. It's like nobody's getting dinner if we haven't pre-made it or something. So same with social media. If you haven't taken the time to make it, it never feels like you have time. So I'm going to recommend, as would Jill, that you carve out, remember we talked at the beginning, the calendar, like if Thursday's the day, you create 5 posts. It's just like do it then. Or if you're creating already an email newsletter, that will be essentially then whatever you're talking about in that 5 new posts. And of course, we love our members at dancestudioowner.com. And of course, we give them if you're listening and you're already a member, you know this, we give you a social media power pack every month. But if you aren't a member yet and you're like, oh, I want one of those, come check it out. We give you some pre-made social media content that's inspirational. And it's just a time saver. So if you're doing it on your own, batch content, use our own content, make it your own, but ultimately don't every day be making posts. Pick one day to make as many posts as possible. Then the organic stuff is easy.
Yes, batching your time, just like we mentioned at the top of this podcast, is the way that you're going to create success around your social media for your studio. Make time, find a convenient day where you enjoy sitting down. And even if you're just spending 1 hour, that is a huge amount of time. You can get a huge amount of things done within a short period of time, but that's my best advice for this one too. And then what about some of the ways to publish the content, Suzanne? So if you're batching your time and you're working on it, there's also ways to make sure that you're scheduling your content. So Facebook has the native publishing tool. So you can use the tool that's right there in Facebook. It doesn't cost you a thing. There's nothing to pay for, nothing extra there. Or there are some paid platforms, again, too. I've used quite a few of them. We're using SmarterQueue, which is not all that expensive, but it's definitely a really great, powerful tool to schedule your social media across multiple platforms. There's Hootsuite and there's lots of Buffer we've used. There's lots of other ones, Agorapulse, Sprout Social. You can just maybe try some of those if you wanted to. Most of them, I think, if not all of them, will offer you a trial.
Yeah. And the bottom line is it's sort of like the do one push-up thing. It's do one automatic scheduling on the free native app within Facebook. It's right there from your page. Try it. Just try it with one. I'm not saying try 5. Try one time. See how magical it is. You can always edit the post, and it's just going to give you so much freedom to then worry about the fun, organic-y, on the fly things because you'll have taken the time. So
definitely,
we are fans. In terms of a time hack, use the tools, the scheduling tools. It's brilliant. So our last bit, as we focus on time hacks that we said at the beginning, is we spend and waste a ton of time looking for stuff.
Yes, we do.
Where is that file? Where are those photos? Where did I put that? What is it in? Where is it on? What is it in? Like, it's a constant game of where's the picture? Where's the file? Where's the document?
Mm-hmm. Where's that Post-it note that I wrote?
Where did we put that? So raise your hand. If you're driving, keep your hands on the wheel, but you lost it. So one of the things that is what I would call the ongoing work of any business is the continuous effort in put things in a place that you know where to find them, and then give them a proper name, and then be consistent, right, Jill? Easier said than done. Easier said than done.
It is so much easier said than done. But once you actually do this, it's life-changing. I was very resistant to it because I figured I needed multiple places. Let me put this online. I'll put this, in a digital type of a file. And then I'll go over here and I'll have my, spiral notebook. And then I have my calendar and my planner. And it was failing me. The system was failing me. So we are really going to drive this point home where if you have one spot for all of your things, and that's going to be a game changer for you. So I know for me, once I pared it all down, I have one planner that I carry around with me, and it has note pages in it. So all my notes for the day go on my note page. And then anything else that I'm thinking about, it goes right into a digital tool. I actually use Trello for this because I found a nice little hack that I can just talk to my automated little assistant here in my office. I won't mention her name right now because she will talk back to me. But when I do that, it actually goes right into a Trello board for me. And so I don't have to think about it later. It's out of my brain and it's in one spot. So I use both paper and digital tools, but only the two places. And that has been a really good, consistent way for me to know exactly where things are.
If you are not currently using a project management tool like Trello or Asana, this is maybe your invitation to take a look at that. So that's because project management allows you to link files. It allows you to link out to Google Docs and upload images and all that. And you can just keep referring there. The other thing I will say that at our own studio is that we've done a pretty good job of labeling it by, so we use Dropbox a lot, if you're a Dropbox user. So we'll say, these are the 2021, 2022 marketing images. We name it by the dance season so that we can go, and then we can go back in time and look at the other seasons, but we try to keep it in the calendar year of the season. So it's easier to remember, I remember what year that was, and go back and find them. So then we have like in-class photos, competition team stuff, like you can start to categorize recital, Halloween, Spirit Week. Then when you're going to also create social media content, if you need to go back in time and find it, it's a lot easier. So just the naming convention of files is also key.
Definitely. And I want to go back to, I did mention that I use a platform, and, some of these are paid, some of them are not. The other thing you can just do is open a simple Google Doc. If you're using G Suite or a Word doc, and keep it a one page, maybe per day or one per week. And you can simply just add your notes and your things that you're working on. But again, it's one place. Doesn't need to be expensive, even if it's just your handwritten notebook, but keep it in that one particular notebook. And Suzanne, your tip about the naming of the files, that's such a great way to make sure that you can go back and find things really easily. So again, naming, we've worked really hard with our team on this year as well, so we can find things, different shared documents. Collaboration is key too. Like you mentioned, Dropbox allows you to share with multiple people, or multiple people can share with you as the studio owner. And then what you can also do is have G Suite, any type of Word documents, everything has that collaboration and ability to be shared across multiple platforms or multiple people.
Yeah. And I think when you're listening to this, and I want to kind of leave you with this, as everyone's, busy, and this is about time hacks, is that when you're in the moment of doing stuff, you don't often think ahead. So you're just like, pictures, class photos,
right?
It's not as easy to think, I need to give this nomenclature that I will look back on and give it like a timestamp. So, if anything, what you take away from this episode, I want you to hear is that it's about putting some intentionality behind the task you're doing and the time you're giving it, because there's nothing more crazy that makes me crazy than doing things multiple times that could have taken half the time. And often it's my own fault, right? Like I'm guilty of being a bit sloppy about stuff at times just because you're like, oh my gosh, it's urgent. I have to get it done. But when I take that time, step back and say, hey, you know what? This needs to be color coded. This needs to be named properly. This needs to be found. We have to batch content. It just makes all the doings of those tasks a little less stressful.
Yeah. And it gets easier the more you do it. It gets easier with time. So if I could leave you with that, is that once you do take the time on the front end to think about the naming conventions or how and where you're going to save these files or these notes, once you get that established and then just do it every single day and every single time that you need to go check your email or you're working on something, just keep doing it and you're going to set yourself up for success. It just becomes repetition and then it becomes automatic after that.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. We hope this helps you keep your passion for dance alive as you run and grow your business. Until next time, this is the Dance Studio 411. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dance Studio 411. Visit us online at dancestudio411.com for more great resources and to submit a question for a future episode. Our number one goal is to help you build a successful dance studio business and keep your passion for dance alive.